first story. I'm going to start with this one. I need to add these guys to. It's important to add. You did. This contact. All right. What a week, Captain. It's only Wednesday. There's an account that posts that every single Wednesday. They post that every single Wednesday on X. And I resonate every time it's Wednesday. But welcome to Zambia What a Day, our usual podcast. We give you updates on the stories making news every weekday, and we're back today to take a look at what's making news and just add commentary to some of these things. I always notice that I start the podcast and then I'm trying to find a spot, what's going to be comfortable, because I have to keep the interaction going. What's coming up on the podcast? Schools are asking children to carry water to class. Eastern Province is making strides in protecting people living with albinism, and Eastern Province especially is very important to talk about because that's where we have had a lot of cases of people living with albinism that have been attacked. Government has employed some cholera volunteers. We'll get into detail into this. And we also have another interesting story. Tasila Lungu's farm has been forfeited to the state. And let's get it off. And just give you these details. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. Let's start from here in Lusaka, where some pupils are forced to carry water to school as the crisis hits hard. Parents have called on the authorities to urgently intervene. And they're saying that there's a need for sustainable water solutions to avoid further disruptions and ensure a healthy learning environment. So if you're from Lusaka, then you know that this is, it's a problem now, but it could be even worse. And what I mean by that is Lusaka is known for cholera outbreaks, right? And because we're known for cholera outbreaks, this lack of water must be an awakening for a lot of people. And we'll look at this in different phases. But let's talk about it, first of all, from the angle of the children. And for things to get to that level, it's very difficult to blame anyone at this point because personally, I even think that it's some level of initiative that the schools are thinking, hey, we've got like 5,000 pupils. And because we've got this many people, average 1,000? I think about 1,000 pupils are in a school. I think so. I'm not sure anyway. But we've got 1,000 pupils in a school. And because of that, if each one of them brings 5 liters of water, then we're likely to have enough water for us to be able to function on a daily basis. Because the pupils have to use the toilets. The toilets need water. A lot of schools have flushable toilets, but nonetheless, they need water to wash their hands. They need water for snacks, for them to wash their hands before they eat. You just need water, basically, in a school. And so the school thinking, if we put these children together, then we're going to get some of this water. But that's where the catch is, because the children are coming from the same communities, most times, from the same communities where the schools are. And even if they're not coming from the same communities, they're coming from communities where water is the problem right now in the city. And when we look at the reality of most households, most of the people that have easy access to water, and let me not say easy, most of the people that have easier access to water right now are people that have boreholes, because supply by the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company is really difficult, compounded by low water levels themselves, but also because they're unable to pump water because you have no electricity for the most part of the day. And very sad situation. The solutions obviously are for the schools to come up with initiatives like, drilling boreholes and all those things. But this is possible for some schools. But for a lot of these public institutions, public schools, they can't even buy stuff to put in school toilets, and the toilets are in deplorable state, And some of these schools don't even have enough teachers, so they don't have proper infrastructure. And I know that there's progress that is being made with the Constituency Development Fund, but a lot of schools still don't have infrastructure. So that's the unfortunate reality. And there's no end to the effects of this drought that we're experiencing. We're experiencing an energy crisis which is affecting people's businesses, people's livelihoods, people's sources of income. And then you have the drought literally affecting people directly. Like, there's a drought, so you have no water, and people are being affected by it. And the other side, I say there's two sides. The other side is a calamity awaiting to happen, a problem in the making, and that is the water problem resulting in health challenges like cholera, an outbreak of cholera. And we have to be on high alert because the possibility of this is very high. In the scarcity of water, and in this case, a lot of people don't even have the option, right? And when there's no access to clean water, people start finding access to some kind of water. And they'll start digging shallow wells, which they have to dig really deep anyway, because the groundwater is becoming a problem because of the heat and the drought. So it's a lot that people have to deal with right now, and I hope that we are increasing surveillance. I know that the Ministry of Health did report that they're increasing surveillance on health issues. The president even talked about it in his address to Parliament on Friday, that they are increasing surveillance of these diseases to ensure that we don't witness any people dying or outbreaks of such diseases as the cholera, which I hope is not going to be a problem for people. All right, let's take a look at other stories. In a significant shift, Eastern region is breaking down cultural norms and misconceptions surrounding people with albinism, long targeted for ritual attacks. Eastern province, once a hotspot for these crimes, is seeing a decline in reported cases thanks to efforts by organizations like the Butterfly Foundation. The foundation is supporting people with albinism with bicycles for better access to health and education. Let's take a look at this.
In eastern Zambia, people with albinism have long faced ritual attacks driven by harmful cultural norms and misconceptions. But change is underway. The Butterfly Foundation, with support from Transport for Transport of Netherlands, is working to break down barriers. 30 people with albinism in Nondaza and Chesavo districts have received bicycles, improving their access to healthcare and education.
The cases are not coming the way they used to. People are not reporting those verbal attacks, ritual attacks like it used to be way back. And I want to appreciate some other NGOs that are also advocating for the rights of people with albinism, because as it is, I can see there is a bit of change and the way it was some time back. Right now, we are also making sure that people with albinism know their rights as well. They can speak for themselves. In rural areas, we find that a clinic is far from the village, and for them to reach to that place, they fear attacks because of the bush that are there. We looked at that and had to contact our partners in the Netherlands, which is Transport for Transport, who also helped us look for donors, which is tools to work, who helped us with 30 mountain bikes.
Chipara Mayor George Mwanza has issued a stern warning to those perpetuating ritual killings fueled by superstition.
Myth that has been going on in the compounds, that when you see a person living with albinism, you can make money out of it. That is a false myth, but it has ended up putting the lives of our colleagues at a very high risk. That is the reason why giving them a bicycle will enable them move fast, thereby running away from those unscrupulous individuals that may want to kill them or attack them. So it will protect them from attacks because they'll be able to move. It will aid them with transport to move and go and hustle to put food on their table.
For people living with albinism, this means inclusiveness and a chance to thrive.
Thank you, the Butterfly Foundation, for the work they have done to give us these mountain bicycles. For me, kuri bonse bamene bazalandira ya bicycles because it would be easy for them like movement.
Samuel Sylvester Kwawe, Diamond News, Eastern Zambia.
So at the start, I said Eastern Province is like a good talking point for people living with albinism. And I think that it's a good thing that we are looking at it in this way. Of course. I've heard some criticism about this kind of, stories because people accuse us, the media, of trying to create butterflies out of a situation that is quite terrible. But I think that it's important to also acknowledge progress when it's made. Of course, this doesn't stop the dangers that people living with albinism are having to endure. But it does, give a glimmer of hope. There's a lot that they have to deal with. And there's one story, I remember on Conversations with Dr. Dora, the podcast, we featured one young lady, and she had her hand chopped off because her teacher was one of the people that was trying to use her for ritual stuff. And very, very sad, she had to endure all of this. And fortunately for her, after her hand was chopped off, I don't know how they ran away from her. They thought she had died, so they left her somewhere. And then she woke up, and she says that she woke up and she couldn't feel her hand, but she didn't realize at the time that the hand has been chopped off. So she's trying to move her hand, but the hand is not there. And then suddenly she started feeling this, serious pain. And she was in hospital for about 6 months before she could be discharged and go home. Fortunately for her, she did get justice, and the people were taken to court and were convicted for such a gruesome act. But she's one of the lucky ones that don't die, because a lot of times they do end up dying. And this is why we need to keep raising awareness. And we have to raise awareness for communities, because to think that you're going to get something out of these people in a bizarre circumstance like that is also a lack of awareness, because people are not aware of such myths, because these are myths, right? And if we continue talking about it and making people understand that these are just people, I know it sounds stupid, but some people may need that kind of explanation, because stereotypes, well, not most times. Stereotypes are as a result of ignorance. You develop a stereotype for something that you don't understand. You're not well informed on it. And so people develop these stereotypes. So when we raise awareness, we're kind of killing two birds with one stone, that we are advocating for equality for people, but also informing people and debunking some of these myths that will hopefully deter people from trying or attempting to harm other people, because then they realize that there's no benefit in such, but also helping the community integrate such people and realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing mysterious. It's just diversity of humankind that is at play. All right, let's move on. The Civil Service Commission has announced that the third phase of cholera volunteer recruitment exercise will see an additional 329 volunteers being employed in the public service. The Commission chairperson, Dr. Jolwe Beani, says the 329 of the 329, 209 are general workers, while 120 are staff, trained staff. And that brings the total number of volunteers that have been employed in the civil service to 1,050. Let's take a look at this.
The Civil Service Commission has just confirmed 329 cholera volunteers will be added into the public service. This development honors President Hakainde Hichilema's area directive, which recognized the bravery and patriotism shown by these volunteers during Zambia's cholera outbreak.
Cumulatively, this development brings the number of cholera volunteers employed in the public service so far to 1,250.
President Hichilema was moved by the volunteers' selfless dedication at the height of the cholera epidemic. In response, he directed the Civil Service Commission to integrate the volunteers into the public sector as positions become available through natural attrition.
I'm directing that all the volunteers should be given permanent.
However, not all are satisfied. Recently, some volunteers in Kanyama have raised concerns, alleging unfairness in the recruitment process.
Hello, bantu bali pa ground bayifya zina ya president. Bantu amba bayitana ati Mr. Promise. After kamba chintu chazoona mutu what they are doing on the ground is something else. So I said tufuna tandizo kuti bantu batitandizi.
Tuje kumukolera fina twenda mukolera tose vanaticho samo. Tufuna titizive vatiyange musanga. Muliro kalipo kupya.
But when asked, Dr. Buyane had this to say.
General statements like complaints without any detail don't help. You see, I think as journalists, learn the art of precision and be able to say such and such and such complaints have been lodged. So we can look at them. Now, if I'm not aware of these complaints and it's a general statement, it's very difficult to address such a matter. So in a certain sense, I can't answer to what doesn't exist. But please, you are still free to lodge a written itemization of those complaints and the commission will handle them. Well, that is our job to do so.
As the recruitment process continues, volunteers and the public alike are eager to see how these concerns are addressed. For now, the addition of 329 volunteers marks a significant step in rewarding those who stood on the front lines during a national health crisis. Best Jere, Diamond News.
So, this is stemming from President HH, and I think this was in the package. It was in the package. President HH basically commending these volunteers that helped the country during that cholera outbreak, and he made a decision there. I think it was at the Hero Stadium, where he told them that they were going to get employed, which was a very good gesture. And I think that it was a very good gesture. And I say I think because I've heard some people that have criticized this. And I was reading a tweet when I tweeted about this when it was happening. Somebody commented on my tweet and they said, is this the only way that people are going to get employed now? No, that's not fair, because the president announced on Friday that 4,000 health workers are going to be employed for this year, 2024, before the end of the year. And this is in addition to the health workers that are being employed every year. I think that there should be a reward for volunteering. It's a morally right thing to do. I know that the motivation now for people to get to volunteer is going to be to get a job, which defeats the purpose of volunteering. But you will notice that in a lot of third world countries, people volunteer with the objective of getting a benefit. You know how volunteering is like you're doing the thing because you want to make a difference. People volunteer in third world countries like Zambia because they might get an allowance, because they're unemployed. So you are volunteering, just maybe it's possible to get like even just a tiny amount of money. But now for the health sector, some people are doing it with a bigger picture of being the first in the queue when government is recruiting. There's some people that have been left behind in this recruitment, but the Civil Service Commissioner said that they might be catered in the 4,000, about 600 of them, that are going to be recruited before the end of the year by the government. So it's for me, I think it's a good thing for people to be rewarded for their dedication, because look, if you have to take care of people that are in an outbreak of cholera and you are not getting paid, I think there should be some good that should come out of that. And the good that comes out of that has to be this recruitment. The Economic and Financial Crimes Court has ordered that a farm that is valued at over 13 million kwacha, belonging to the daughter of former President Edgar Lungu, be forfeited to the state for being a proceed of crime. Let's take a look at this.
I was helped by my father to acquire properties. That was one of the defense filed by former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Tasila in stopping the forfeiture of our property, a farm worth 13.9 million kwacha, to the state for being a proceed of crime. Her defense says it a brick wall, as the court has ruled that there is no trial to show that her father helped her to acquire the said property. Recently, the Director of Public Prosecution DPP Gilbert Piri filed some forfeiture proceedings in respect to the property owned by Ms. Lungu, as investigations proved that the said property was a proceed of crime. After months of proceedings, a judgment has been delivered in favor of the DPP. The court has established that Ms. Tasila Lungu's non-income activities were between June 11, 2015 to August 31, 2021, and her total earnings during the period in question amounting to 154,200 kwacha, which amount the court says is far insufficient to have purchased and later on developed the farm in question. Building on the same findings, the court says if Ms. Lungu had any other economic activity as claimed other than being a councillor, she could have been paying tax and filing returns pursuant to Section 46(1) of the income tax, which could have been sufficient proof to support the claim that she had other economic activities which could have been the legitimate sources of money used to purchase and develop the property in Kasu, because it is a requirement of any person or company running a business to pay tax and file returns. The court says Ms. Lungu has not provided any proof to support her claim that she had other economic activities, and in the absence of such proof, the court says the only reasonable inference to draw is that Ms. Lungu may have run some businesses but evaded tax, and tax evasion being a serious offense, it therefore follows that the property acquired with the said proceed becomes tainted property liable to be forfeited to the state as per Section 2 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act. The court says, since there's no explanation offered by Ms. Lungu on the acquisition of the property, the inference drawn by the court is that the property was a proceed of crime as defined under the Act. According to the court, it has been demonstrated that a comparison of Ms. Lungu's non-income of 867,800 kwacha, when analyzed against the value of the property, showed a whooping variation of over 7 million kwacha. In the circumstances, the court has been made to wonder where Ms. Lungu got the money and asked a question on whether the money was gotten from her father, who is a former Republican president. In answering the question, the court says there is no trail to show that the money came from her father. Darius Jonah, Diamond News.
All right, so this has been ongoing for a little bit now, and initially, Tasila Lungu, who is the former president's daughter, was arguing that the reason why this is happening is because she's Edgar Lungu's child, and she, through her lawyers, felt that this whole thing was being done maliciously, and the investigation was being done maliciously, targeted at her, because the DPP wanted this property forfeited to the state. And the judges here say that they found that she had no means for her to acquire and later develop the said property. And through the investigation, they say that Ms. Lungu had no other income generating activities before 2015, and that her known economic activities were between 11th June 2015 to August 2021, and that during that period, the money she got was about 154,200 kwacha, which was insufficient to purchase and later develop the farm. She did say that, it was overvalued. She felt that it was overvalued, and according to her, this was a witch hunt. She's not the first of the Lungus to actually have her property forfeited to the state. Her mother, her mother and her sister also forfeited to the state, her brother. So it's been a lot going on with the Lungus and forfeiting property to the state and all these investigations. Look, I think that there should be confidence in the judicial system, and when cases come to a conclusion, then they've come to a conclusion. There is a provision for people to appeal, and I think that one of the things I personally find myself very proud of is the judicial system, because have always held a view that one of the things that you can kind of bank on in any society, in our society, is the judicial system when you get to the courts. It's not 100% foolproof, but I think that it's pretty decent, and it can stand for you. I don't want to say if you're lucky, in most cases. I know there's a lot of times when people feel justice has not been served, but we fairly do have a good justice system, a judiciary. And I think that is something we can bank on. I just thought I weigh that in. But that should bring us to the end of our podcast today. I'm kind of coming down with the flu, so that's where my mind is at. I'm trying to not have a flu. You know what they say about the mind, that it can fight anything. So I'm going to report to you tomorrow if this thing is going to be there or if it's going to go away after gym. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.